Good morning, and thank you for coming this morning. I'd like to update the media and the community in relation to Homicide 1 for 2016, and it's the murder of Joseph Petit, and he was 17 years of age at the time of his death, and he was a high school student in Toronto. The shooting took place in the Dentonia Park Avenue area, south of the entrance to the Victoria Park subway station entrance. Also speaking this morning is the mother of Joseph, and her name is Anna Paveo. On Monday, the 4th of January 2016, at approximately 5:50 p.m. in the afternoon, the deceased left his home in the general area and took the family dog for a walk. The deceased returned to the area within a short period of time where he was met by two male individuals. The deceased spoke to these two young men for a short period of time, at which time there was a physical struggle ensued, and at that time the deceased was shot to death. The deceased in this case will have known his two attackers prior to this particular incident taking place. The deceased was taken to an area hospital in grave condition as a result of the shooting. Within days of the shooting, Joseph's family made the difficult decision to withdraw life support, and on the 7th of January of this year, Joseph died from his injuries sustained a few days earlier. Unfortunately, witness participation in this investigation has not been forthcoming. Rumors in the community suggest that the murder of Joseph Petit is a solved investigation, and I am here to tell you that that is simply not the case. There is no doubt that some of Joseph's friends and associates know exactly what happened to Joseph on that particular day and will likely know the reason for the shooting taking place. The Toronto Police Service and the Homicide Squad are and continue to be committed to public safety, and we want to apprehend and incarcerate people responsible for these types of crimes in the interest of protecting the public. But the Homicide Squad require evidence if we are going to be seeking to take the liberty of an individual away for the rest of their lives, and that's the way it should be. The threshold for proof in the court is substantial. It always will be that way, and it always should be that way. We need the participation of witnesses from the community to come forward to participate in reducing the violence within the community. The lack of witness participation remains the most challenging aspect of all murder investigations. The deceased family and the Toronto Police Service are seeking justice for Joseph. The family need the loyalty of the community to come forward now in relation to the justice for their son. I encourage the community to have the courage, and when I say the community, I mean people who are friends of Joseph's and associates and classmates and neighbors, to come forward in relation to information that can bring this case to a successful conclusion. I would also like to announce that the Toronto Police Service will be issuing and have issued a $50,000 reward in relation to information leading to the arrest and conviction of the person responsible for the murder of Joseph Petit. I am going to be available to answer questions at the end of Ms. Paveo's comments, but at this point I'd like to ask Anna Paveo, Joseph Petit's mother, to make some comments of her own.
This is hard. I'm doing it because mothers do what they have to do for the children. Joey leaves behind a loving family. He was a 17-year-old high school student. In the fall, his high school gave him an award for kindness. We loved him. He comes from a good home, and our family lives in a good community. Imagine leaving work and finding your son shot and dying in your very neighborhood. He would have died alone had I not arrived at that time. I've seen things and done things that no mother should have to do. No Toronto mother can afford to ignore that it happened to me, it happened to my son, and it happened in our city. Joey was a great son, brother, family member, and friend. His murderers do not understand the gravity of what they've done to our family. They don't care. We are hoping that other people do care and we need their help. Our lives are forever changed. Our child was murdered, and there's no closure for that. We are incomplete. We live in constant sadness, and no amount of time will change that. Joey is never going to come back to us. He needs your help, and every son would want his family to know what happened to him. The smallest amount of information can make a difference to us and to this case. Police are trying to solve his murder. They're trying to make our community safer. There are people out there that have information, and for the sake of our community, for our family, and for our son, we urge them to come forward. Okay.
Can we ask you any questions?
Stand right here, Anna, if you want.
Can you just tell us, what were you doing when you found out that your son had been fatally shot?
I was with my son.
What were you doing when you found out he'd actually been shot? When he was walking the dog, where were you? And how did you find out?
I was leaving work, and I came upon my son, shot in the street. I came upon my son. I called 911, and had I not been there, my son would have died alone.
When you found out that there was no chance that he was going to survive, I mean, it must have been the most horrific experience for a mother. Can you describe how difficult that was for you, that moment?
That's not something that I could describe. You'd have to imagine it to be your own child, and that's just not something parents do. You can't do that.
Is there anything you'd like to say to the people who shot him?
The people that murdered our son, they don't know who Joey was. They don't know who we are. They don't understand the gravity of what they've done. They don't know that we're broken. They don't know that we don't know how to move forward. We don't know how to move forward.
Can you tell us what you'll miss most about him?
Joey he was a great son, and he was a great big brother, and he made us laugh. We were proud of him, and we enjoyed being with him. I'll miss everything about your child.
And Detective Sergeant Giroux said that, he believes that some of Joey's friends and associates know what happened here. I'm assuming you know many of his friends and associates. What do you have to say to them? I mean, these are people that were friends of your kid, probably friends of yours as well, that you might have seen grow up. And it sounds like no one's helping out in this investigation.
Joey was 7. He was a teenager, and like most teenagers, he had many, many friends, and he had many great friends, a lot of which don't come to our house. They still visit. They're grieving, and they miss him too.
We're having a lot of conversations over the last little while about how to prevent stories like the one that your family is going through. I just would like to know what you make of the whole situation, I guess of the conversations that we're having now about guns and violence and stories like this.
We want to make our city safe. We want to make our streets safer. And to do that, communities need to come forward, and they need to do their part. Everybody needs to do their part. And people with information must come forward. I urge them to come forward and share the information with the police so that our streets can be safer.
Did you know what he wanted to do when he grew up? Like, did he have ideas?
Yeah, he wanted to join the Canadian military.
How many siblings does he have?
He has 2 siblings.
And how are they handling all of this?
We've been fortunate to have a lot of support from victim services, and they're working with victim services.
Is there anger right now?
That's not something I can answer at the moment.
How would you like us to remember your son? If there's one way to describe him, how would you like us to remember him?
Joey was a teenager. He was a student. He was a high school student. He loved to, cook for his friends and barbecue for his friends. He loved to be with his family. He loved to enjoy life. He should have been able to live a life.
Sergeant Giroux, what do you think the 50,000 will obtain?
Well, I mean, it's it acts as, motivation for witnesses to come forward, but the demographics and the people who know what happened to Joseph shouldn't be motivated by financial gain. There are people within, his circle of friends and influences, and these are the individuals who either have heard what happened to Joseph and why, and who was present, and quite frankly, they should be coming forward because it's the things that your parents taught you from a young age about what the difference between right and wrong is. So I'm really appealing to those types of individuals. The general public at large won't have these types of answers. The people who knew Joseph will, and as a result of them, the appeal really is focused primarily on people that knew him and know why it happened, and they will know who. But as I said to you earlier, to take the liberty and incarcerate somebody for the rest of their lives, the threshold is extremely high for the policing community, and nobody wants to incarcerate people for murder more than I do, and I've done it for the last 20 years. So what I'm saying is that I need evidence, I need tangible evidence that I can take to court, and as a result of that, the threshold is high and will remain high, and I accept that, and I've always worked within those boundaries. But these individuals in the community know what happened, and they are in possession of marketable evidence. And so at this particular time, with the assistance of Joseph's mom and father, I'm asking them to do the right thing. And we say that a lot, and the right thing is to do what your parents taught you when you're at a young age, which is come forward with information that you know can help this family and do the right thing. And that is the right thing, and I expect them to do that now.
Why are you so confident that this wasn't a mugging or a robbery gone wrong?
I can't go into the details of the evidence, but I can tell you that he was approached by two individuals, and they had a conversation for a number of minutes before it escalated into a physical fight in which he was shot. And the motive is not robbery, and it's a pre-existing motive. There's some pre-existing animus or reason for what happened, and he was approached by two people that he knew.
And I'm sure you gleaned social media in the days following this event.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's a bit of the age group is a challenging age group with regards to coming forward and cooperating with the police. But the answer to this particular case is within the community of Joseph's friends and associates. No, there's no question.
At the top of the press conference, you alluded to the fact that there were rumors in the community that this case was solved.
Correct. And that's sometimes not all that unusual for people in the community to think that there's somebody that's been held accountable for it. It's one of those scenarios where I would prefer, as a witness, for somebody else to do, the difficult part, which is to come forward, give a statement to the police, and testify in court. So I'm here to dispel that rumor and indicate that somebody has not been held accountable, and I'm appealing to the individuals who do know, and I'm sure that they may very well be listening right now, in relation to the information that they have in their possession, that they can come forward, and quite frankly, we could have this person in custody by this afternoon, and we're just looking for that individual to come forward with that reason.
Was there any physical evidence left at the scene?
These types of cases, close quarters shooting don't traditionally leave a tremendous amount of evidentiary value in relation to the Center of Forensic Sciences, so there's nothing of any great significance. This is going to be an eyewitness case. This is going to be witnesses coming forward saying, I heard an admission from the offender, or I was present.
Do you have any idea who the suspects are at this point?
No, I don't.
Not any idea, no description at all?
No tangible description other than two young males wearing dark clothing. It was the time of year before the clocks were changed, so 5:30 was like the middle of the night, and as a result of that, I don't have any real tangible descriptions. But there was one shooter, and so there's another individual who's present that may or may have known what was about to happen to Joseph, and for obvious reasons, that individual is of great evidentiary value in the event that he didn't condone it, he didn't support it, and he didn't know it was about to happen. And that person's either involved or he's simply a witness. So I would encourage that individual to come forward as soon as possible.
Challenge in this case, when it comes to getting witnesses, you mentioned the challenge with this age group. Is that challenge fear, or is it some other sort of unwillingness to not come forward and help the police?
It spans it's a difficult question to answer. witness participation has always been the biggest challenge, no matter what the age group is. So it's, in relation to the Canadian justice system, it's coming forward, it's giving a statement to the police under oath, it's appearing in court in an open forum and testifying. And that's the system that we have, and that's the system we work with, and that's the challenge in relation to witnesses who don't want to participate in that type of conduct.
Mom, you said that you're the one who actually found Joey. Did you hear the gunshots ring out then? Were you inside the house and then you heard the gunshots ring out? Like,
I was walking, and he was on the floor.
was it outside your house?
It was in our community.
So you weren't looking for him, you were just out for a walk?
I was out, there was somebody on the floor, I went to help the person. It was my son.
And you didn't know it was your son originally, when you saw it? Like,
No, I went to help a person who had fallen down, and it was my son. And
shocked that must have registered when you realized it was your child there, lying shot?
Joey was aware that I was with him for a little bit of time, and I was with him. I was with my son. He was aware that I was there, and we were together. That's all I can say on that.
This question would be for the detective. 20 years investigating homicides in this city, and I guess depending on who you ask, this year shootings, deadly shootings are out of control. I'm not saying that's the way it is, but that's the way some people put it. Has something changed in this city? Is there something different about this year than in others?
You know, I've seen, over the years, I've seen a number of trends where we have spikes and, you know, more than what I would describe as a usual number of violent incidences within the city. But then traditionally, our statistical numbers really don't change dramatically over the number of years that I've been there. So the Toronto Police Service, the Homicide Squad, we're responding to these particular instances. We have a tremendous amount of policing resources, the Gun and Gang Task Force, the Emergency Task Force, officers within the field. Everybody's doing their part. The big part, and the reason for this morning's press conference is now, and the chief has said it many times, but we can't do it by ourselves. And to build these types of high-profile criminal cases, we need evidence of a significant value and at a high level. You know, we're going to be putting people in jail for life, and as a result of that, the threshold is extremely high. And part of that, in these particular cases, this case is not going to be solved by the Center of Forensic Science. It's not a fingerprint case. It's a witness coming forward to say, I was present, I saw what happened, I spoke to the offender, he told me what he did to Joseph and why. And that's the difficult part of it.
Is it more difficult now than it used to get those people to come forward and give you those tips of a crack a case like this?
That pervasiveness with regards to participation has been around for the 2 decades that I've been doing this type of work. But we put a lot of people in jail for life, and witnesses do come forward, and they do have the courage to do it, and some of them live high-risk lifestyles, and they still come forward. And we've locked up a lot of people over the years. So what I'm saying is, you know, we can be successful with the community's help. And we can incarcerate people for this type of conduct before they go on and victimize other people, or they become victimized themselves. And as a result of that, it is doable, and it does just take the courage to do it. And this family needs that type of courage now.
Detective Giroux, with due respect to Joseph Petit, can you bring us up to date about yesterday's Cowbell Lane shooting?
I don't have any involvement with it overnight. Detective Sergeant Giroux is in charge of that case, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from her. Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to repeat one more time that we loved and adore her son. Now, you're going to write him up as the first murder victim of 2016. But Joseph Petit was our son. He was a 17-year-old boy that had his whole life ahead of him. Everyone was shocked that this happened to our family, that this happened to our son. And I think many people in Toronto would be shocked to know that our family is just like their family. Joey would want us to know what happened to him. He would not want us to carry around these questions for the rest of our lives. And I want to say that if we want to end gun violence, lots of people need to do their part, and people need to come forward. A small amount of information can make a huge difference for us, and it could help protect other people. Thanks.
This concludes today's conference. Thank you for attending.